When it comes to trimming your balls, always use the right tool for the job. Manscaped is the only got your mother in a world, but she's not sure if you're a boy or a girl. Hey, babe, your hair's all right. Hey, babe, let's stay out tonight. You like me and I like it all. We like dancing and we look divine. You love bands when they play it hard. You want more and you want it fast. They put you down, they say I'm wrong. You take a thing, you put them on. Rebel, rebel, you torn your dress. Rebel, rebel, your face is a mess. Rebel, rebel, how could they know? Hot tramp, I love you so. Rebel, rebel, you torn your dress. Rebel, rebel, your face is a mess. Rebel, rebel, how could they know? Hot tramp, I love you so. Torn your dress, your face is a mess. You can't get enough, but enough ain't the test. Transmission of the live wire. You got your fuel line and a handful of blues. You wanna be there when they count up the dudes. And I love your dress. You're a juvenile success. Because your face is a mess. So how could they know? I said, how could they know? So what you wanna know? You gotta just try. But where you wanna go? Can I do for you? Looks like I've been there too. Cause you torn your dress. And your face is a mess. Ooh, your face is a mess. Ooh, so how could they know? Certainly a way interesting way to open up a show, huh? Thanks for everybody being here this afternoon. I am the Lunchbox, or you might know me by other names, but we'll get to that later. Uh, so thank you very much for taking a little bit of time out of your afternoon to join me here. Hopefully, we're going to have a little bit of fun and maybe a little bit of a laugh at my expense. As of course, over the last year, there's been an increase in cases of anxiety, depression, and suicide given the pandemic with COVID-19. And I felt it was kind of necessary to sort of tell a story that's very near and dear in terms of the struggle with a couple of those particular types of things, especially with anxiety and depression. It's something I've definitely been suffering with for many years, and long before I ever brought any or even decided to attend to it. But certainly, starting off with a video like that, not very common, I'm sure. But the reason for it actually is to tell kind of a story and kind of bring it all back to why it's extremely important to kind of make sure that your mental health is a priority, especially in these times. So, obviously, that was the legendary David Bowie and all his Ziggy Stardust glory. And so to start that off, there is a reason behind that. And that's because that particular video of him scared me half to death for years. And also would serve as the kind of aha moment at another point in life, in my life, where I realized that I was starting to win this ongoing battle. But to have the story really make sense and bring it all together, we will have to, like Mr. Peabody says, set the Wayback Machine to a simpler time in life. And, as I said, and as the caption says, I'm as cheesy as I want to be. And in some ways, this is definitely going to be somewhat of a cheesy story. And, hopefully you'll get a little bit of a chuckle out of it because I certainly do, especially at this point. So to go back a little bit. I was about 12 years old, and you remember in the 90s how they would have those made-for-TV advertisements for these collections from Time Life or Rolling Stone, where it was the end-all, be-all of collections. You'd never need to buy another CD or another record collection ever again, and they'd always have some, washed-up has-been. VJ from MTV or some one hit wonder that would be doing this promotion for about 30 minutes. And one of the things that they would do is they would show clips of all of these feature artists, whether it be a 70s collection or what have you. Well, one of the clips that they actually showed was the one that I started off the show with, and that was the uh, video of Ziggy Stardust, David Bowie. And I remember seeing that, and for whatever reason, uh, it triggered something in me that just created almost a fear, and it just was overwhelming to me. And I you could attribute it, at that particular time, as maybe just a kid having a wild imagination, but over a course of the years, it just never really left me for a long time. It just would sometimes just get the best of me, and you'd have nightmares, and I'd have nightmares, and that he was coming after me. And it's so funny because I was always the person that I could watch some blood and guts horror movie and it wouldn't bother me, but yet this did. And I mean, he was the Goblin King in Labyrinth, for crying out loud. Well, that never got to me, but this did. Um, and I don't necessarily think it was him as a person that was frightening me. It's the image that I created in my mind, and just that, just analyzing and creating something more than what it really was. And that's one of the clear signs of having either depression or anxiety, is just taking something and making it into more than what it really needs to be. uh, it's not something you really intend to do so much as it just, you're always in this constant state of thought of, you know it's just always chaos, and just not having the ability to bring it under control. And you know I I just remember, there were, I used to, especially in high school, I used to go down to this local record store uh, near where I lived. There were a couple of them. And I just remember anytime that I went in there, I would always try to avoid going past the B section, and because I was always afraid that I'd see like an album cover of Ziggy Stardust, on whether it be like Aladdin Sane or the Diamond Dogs album. And I remember I'd come close to it, and I just remember I'd go like this and sort of just duck my head down and not look at it. And so this just was, it's so funny to think about, but I mean that's how serious it was. Uh, and this went on for years, and there were even times where you'd be, you know when I was a kid mostly, you'd be in the basement, and of course that was the creepy place of the house, right? Just the concrete, and there'd be spider webs and everything like that, and I would just you know I would be down there, and I'd get all creeped out, or the thought of what I was creating in my mind would just get the best of me. And I'd be like Kevin in Home Alone when he was afraid of the furnace. Yeah, that was kind of me. I'd bolt up the stairs, and I'd get out of the basement as quickly as possible. Uh, if you have any comments or questions, please feel free to contribute. I'll try to monitor it as much as I can throughout the show. This isn't the most high quality production value, but if anyone wants to contribute or chime in, you most certainly can, and it is certainly welcomed. Uh, but Uh, but yeah, just it's it just goes to show you that when something like that is just manifesting and just continuing for a period of time, I just never really thought about it. And you as you go through life and get older, it just sort of just becomes just a matter of routine without really addressing it. So um, but flash forward to uh, fall of about 2012, and I was kind of starting to get into some bad shape. Um, Really, with mentally, I was starting to really start to fall apart. And even a little bit before that, it wasn't a very happy time for me. I was just shy of turning 31 years old, but I was having recurring panic attacks. Some were a little bit more serious than others. There were a couple that I seriously thought that I was having a heart attack. One in particular, I remember waking up at about 2 o'clock in the morning, and you feel your heart racing and just couldn't breathe. And I was almost ready to call 911. I mean, that's not good. you know, uh, and you're thinking to yourself, really, is this happening? I mean, I'm 30 years old and I feel like I'm on the verge of a heart attack. So that's that's not a good place to be. And also just noticing that there were a lot of circumstances where I felt like I had to validate myself and always justify why I'm doing what I'm doing or why I'm working where I'm working. This constant state of feeling as if you have to measure up to some standard that really wasn't there. And I did this, for a very long time. I did this when I was a kid. I did this when I was a teenager and through and into my adult phase, into my adult life, and uh, it never stopped. It just an endless vicious cycle that I put myself through and put others through. I could never be content being in a social situation without feeling inadequate and feeling as if I had to measure up to other people when there was really no reason for it. And it was getting to that boiling point for sure. And there have been so many different situations that I should have just gone with the flow. It's like the old saying says, first you know, learn to go with the flow. And I used to hear that so much, when I was a kid growing up, why can't you just go with the flow? Why do you have to challenge everything? And it's very true. Or there's the old saying, first you get along, then you go along. They sound like cliche things to say, but it's very true. You have to just find a way to just kind of go with the flow. Have to be in this constant state of being in a frantic mind or just having to uh, always having to try and challenge everything and feel as if you have to justify who you are around everyone else. It's no way to live. So let's just 1 second here. Just checking to see if anyone has any questions or anything like that. Oh, not quite yet. Uh, and the pattern continued, uh, and then it reached a boiling point. It reached a basic, basically, it just reached a point where it was unavoidable and something had to be done. And that was in February of 2013. It was shortly after I had turned 31, and I remember it was Valentine's Day, and I was taking my wife out to dinner. We ended up just going somewhere really simple, and uh, during the course of dinner, all of a sudden, I just completely started to. Uh, I was all of a sudden in this very panicky state, and I didn't know what to do, and it was upsetting, my wife, and she wanted to know what was going on, and I was just somewhat irritable about it too, because all of a sudden I didn't want to be there. And I remember I got up and went into the bathroom of this restaurant and uh, just kind of put myself in a corner for about 20 minutes and just was trying to bring myself down and just begging God to stop this because it was just getting out of hand. And, eventually it kind of passed, but it was just a very frightening feeling. And I, and that's when I kind of was starting to see that this was getting to a point where I couldn't, avoid or, sidestep the matter much longer. And then came, the grand finale, which I can laugh at now, but at the time it wasn't very funny. It was a Saturday afternoon, and we were going to this awesome grocery store that's not far from here. It's called Woodman's. They have everything. I'm telling you. Uh, they're open 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. You can go in there and get whatever you want. Uh, awesome. I remember when I first moved out here, everyone was saying, "Oh, you should go there. You should go there. They've got everything." And I go in there, and they literally have everything. So, and I know we're kind of going off the beaten path a little bit here, but we got some time to kill, right? Uh, they literally have an entire section devoted to frozen pizzas. I mean, it's all, they're in the big cases, the little cases, whatever kind you want, they've got. And so I have to be careful though, because anytime I go in there, I'm bound to find something that I really want. And I've, of course, been chronicling this on Facebook and everything that I've been losing a lot of weight over the course of the last year, which I'm incredibly grateful for. And I think also that my ability to do so has been partially it's attributed to the fact that I've been making sure to just be attentive to the things that I'm prone to suffering. And I don't want to say that I still don't suffer from these things. This will always be a lifelong battle. Especially my anxiety. That's the one thing that I know has always been a serious issue with me. Uh, Throughout my life, even when I didn't realize it. When you're a kid, I think it's easy just to sort of brush off certain emotions. You just think it's nerves. You just think that it's being, scared, not really thinking much past that point. As you get older, you're seeing yourself in situations where there's really nothing to be scared about or nothing to be too worried about, but yet you're feeling all of this anxiousness and nerves and I or getting to the point of being physically ill, which I know 100% what that feels like. And depression is, that's something that I know that my family's had a history of. Also, I can say beyond the shadow of a doubt that for so long I was very naive about what depression was. I just had a very narrow mind. I thought that it was, people walking around like Eeyore from Winnie the Pooh. Well, thanks for noticing. When I watch this, I want to see how that sounds played back because I think that sounds pretty cool. And what's funny is I had a few people that used to call me Eeyore. Actually, they actually gave me a stuffed doll. They're like, "You're Eeyore," and I'd be like, "Why?" Because you're always. So, again, one of those things that I can laugh at now, and certainly funny, but back then it kind of hurt. But it's all it, it stemmed from just being oblivious and not really you know paying attention. But getting back to, I always thought depression was just walking around being grumpy all the time and being, I hate the world hates me, and throwing the pity party, and that's the furthest thing from what it really is. I liken it to sort of the Smokey Robinson lyrics, the tears of a clown, and that's really what it is. You can walk around and you can be a vibrant person and walk around and try to bring happiness and joy to other people, but the one person that can't be happy is yourself, because no matter what, you're always having this sense of doubt and sense of uncertainty and not feeling as if you measure up, and that's a terrible way to be. And uh, I certainly was the embodiment of that uh, for a long time, and also just not being able to be happy for others sometimes. That was that was also something uh, that I had a hard time with. I couldn't just be happy for someone else's success because it didn't revolve around me or in some way, shape, or form, or I felt like I was less of a person, or why isn't this happening for me? Almost like the victim mentality. I remember distinctly one time, uh, one of one of my in-laws, they were expecting their first child. It was St. Patrick's Day, and we all went out, and it was a celebration. Everything we were all just getting together and gonna have a good time. And uh, I show up there with my wife, and next thing we're all standing around and happy, and you know, I had I'll admit had a few drinks, so I was feeling a little tipsy, to put it simply. And at one point, my sister in law came up to me and says, "Some uh, someone has something to tell you," and I'm kind of out of it, and I'm a little woozy and a little tired, and like I said, I'd already had a few, and she comes up to me and says, "I'm pregnant." And I just sort of had this dead stare in my eyes, like, "Oh, okay, uh-huh." Cute impression, isn't it? And after she said that, I don't really know the chain of events, but I do know that shortly afterwards, my sister in law came up to me and she looked at me and she goes, kind of looked at me, sort of moved her head side to side and goes, "Uh oh, you're not happy." And I went, "Oh no, I'm happy. I just hope you extend the same courtesy to us when me and Sarah have kids." And uh, that turned into a very ugly situation. But I mentioned that in particular because I had to take something that was somebody else's moment of joy, and I had to turn around and make it about me, and just being completely selfish. And that's another thing where, again, depression rearing its ugly head, and showing that it is a very powerful thing to try and deal with. So I certainly was uh, in the throes of it big time, for sure. But again, also just want to mention that if you're watching this, whether it be on Facebook Live or YouTube, please feel free to chime in. Suggestions are always welcome. Comments, questions, concerns, well, write to your congressman if you got those, because I don't really care. Um, anyways, let's see what else. Anyways, getting back to this, you can tell that this is my first time doing something like this because I'm like, dead. Anyways, but yeah, it just goes to show you that it's a very powerful thing, especially if you don't, take care of it. So getting back to what I was initially talking about. So uh, as I was saying before, it was a Saturday afternoon. Very rare that I get a Saturday off, especially at that particular time doing what I did, work wise. We go into this. We were on our way there, and all of a sudden, I started getting this cold sweat, and just was very shaky, and uh, you know, I just all of a sudden became very panicky, and we were on our way to Woodman's, this grocery store that I referenced earlier, that has everything, including a whole wide variety of frozen pizzas. So, and I remember we got there, and the first thing I did is I went into the bathroom and got sick. It was just horrible, and I could just feel my blood pressure drop. My hands were clammy. I was just a nervous wreck. I didn't want to be there, and uh, I had never wanted to get out of a place so quickly in my entire life. So we went in there, and we got what we needed, and I got out of there so fast. But while we were in there, inside of me, I was just a mess. Uh, I never had I've never had a panic attack or anything where I freaked out in public, or just started convulsing, or just or anything visible. It was all always internal, but internally I was frantic, and I didn't know what to do except just get out of there as quick as possible. And so we get back home, and I remember sitting in a chair in the living room, and just feeling this utter despair. And I just I don't remember specifically everything that happened at that point, but I do know that my wife came up to me, and she looked at me, and she said, "You need to go see a doctor. You need to go get this fixed." She's like, "You can't do this anymore. This is too much." And I will never forget this until the day I die. She said to me, I do not want to bury another loved one in the next 10 years." That that's a hell of a statement, to say the least. Uh, I I don't think I would was bound to get into a life threatening situation necessarily, but I certainly believe that if I had continued forward and continued on, I would have uh, I would have certainly been. Uh, I think that a lot of really wonderful things would have never happened, or, that have taken place uh, over the course of the last 8 years. So I remember just looking for a doctor, found one, and went to one for the first time, and since I was about 17 years old. So uh, big wake up moment, and I was nervous and scared, and just really didn't know, just really didn't you know know what was going to happen, and that began that began the turnaround. That began when things started. The fog was lifting, but I will say this: that after going to the doctor for the first 3 days, I was I was very, I felt like the worst person in the world. I felt like crap actually. Um, because you don't just, it's not like you just go to the doctor, you start taking the medicine, you start taking medicine or whatever, and all of a sudden you're high on life and woohoo, look at me. No, you go through a lot of emotion because you're trying to make sense of everything. And there was about a 3 day period where I didn't want to be around anybody. I didn't even want to go home. And there was one night in particular that I remember distinctly that uh, still plays in my head from time to time. And I remember like it was yesterday. At that time, I was actually working in the state of Wisconsin, which isn't very far from where I live. I'm about less than 15 minutes from the border, but I was working about a half hour, 45 minutes away, and I was doing sales at that particular time for a mobile company. And I was there a little bit later than normal because it had been a great day, making money, doing business, and so it was taking me a little bit longer to kind of get everything shut up for the night. So much so that all of the other stores, the doors were closed, the employees had already left, and they weren't even playing the music that they would normally play in the mall. Or actually, what was cool though is this particular mall used to play like nothing but 80s stuff all the time. So, being that I'm a real, being as the caption says, I'm cheesy as I want to be. You're damn right. I am cheesy to the core. If I want to drive in my car and I want to listen to Wake Me Up Before You Go Go, I'm going to do it. And if I want to roll down the windows and look at other cars and start singing the lyrics, I'm just going to do it. Why? Because I can. And it's fun. You know, that's one thing that's been a tremendous blessing about, kind of getting myself better is I've learned to embrace my inner geek. I am a geek. I'm a nerd. I am a self-proclaimed retro head. I love 80s hair bands, and I certainly uh you know I freely admit that I love all things retro. you know I like hanging out in antique stores because it's like as close to a time machine as I'm ever going to get. Although the way things are going right now, I'd love to start a GoFundMe page to try and create some level of time travel. But I don't think a lot of people would contribute to it. I sometimes weigh between that and creating like the Death Star from Star Wars. Uh, but just checking here, see if anyone's got any questions or comments. Not quite yet. Well, maybe those will come after the fact, but it's no big deal. Again, whether it be big or small, this is just. I hope that this. I hope that this cast can, provide some sense of, you know, solace or happiness to others, and but also to myself as well. Um, so it, I just remember, like being in this mall late at night. It was after hours, and everything was just quiet, just dead quiet. And it was the first time that I felt peaceful. So much so that I didn't want to go home. It wasn't because I didn't love my wife. I just, it was a peaceful feeling. Everything was quiet. There was no noise. There was nothing going on. And at the same time, that's what I wanted. I wanted to feel. I wanted to be able to just turn my mind off and just relax. And that was the first time that it happened. You know, but at the same time, I was still feeling kind of, bummed out and feeling kind of down. And I think looking back on it, a lot of it had to do with just feeling like I had, just been so uh, disappointing, at least in my mind, to so many that loved and cared for me and looked out for me. And that's what, kind of brought that on. So over the course of the next couple months, I I start to, I'm starting to feel better. I'm starting to feel more optimistic. I'm not. jumping for joy and, doing, flips and everything like that. But I'm definitely feeling a lot more confident. I was feeling a lot more balanced. And I was starting to find that a lot of things that used to irritate me or get on my nerves, it just wasn't doing it. I was, oh, okay. I didn't feel as reactionary to different things. You're finding that you're picking and choosing your battles a lot more wisely. And so, flash forward to probably about a year later, and I'm a self-proclaimed YouTube junkie. I mean, I'll be up. Sometimes I like to stay up past when my wife goes to sleep, and also my four-legged fur child Bella. Hi, baby girl. I know that you're probably sitting near mom right now watching this. Actually, I'm dog sitting this week for my cool neighbors that live next to us. They're taking a vacation. A wonderful, lovely young couple, and we've been taking care of the dog who's 16 years old, and he's a hoot, man. I'm telling you, I love this dog, man. I was trying to actually convince my wife, to maybe think about getting a small dog to be a companion for my dog Bella, but she kind of shot that down. But you never say never, and I'm not giving up hope yet. Uh, so this week, I it's like I snore, my dog snores, and my neighbor's dog snores. So I've been sleeping in a sawmill for the last couple of nights. So uh, I I think it's kind of funny. If I can't find my neighbor's dog, if he like for some reason he's found a place underneath my bed. He likes to sleep under there, or he'll sleep in his bed that's like right across from my night right next to my nightstand. But we can if we're not sure if he's in the room, we can always hear him snore. So that it's a dead giveaway. In fact, I had my headphones on last night and I was watching YouTube, just watching some old cheesy videos and everything like that, and I could literally hear him snoring through my headphones, and they're noise canceling. So that just that goes to show you that 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 dog can snore. So yes, getting back to being a full blown YouTube junkie for all things cheesy and maybe slightly crappy, depending upon your taste. Uh, my brother and I, we definitely have differ varying degrees of. We have a significant difference in our taste in music sometimes, and he gives me a hard time for it. But it's all out of love. And but one day I was just watching YouTube, and lo and behold, what shows up on my feed but the very same video that I started the show off with. And I kind of paused for a second and I went, yeah, well, let's see. And I remember I played it and I watched it and I was like, huh. Kind of just had this moment where I wasn't really sure what to do with myself. Because this video just caused just a chain reaction of anxiety for me for years. And now all of a sudden I'm sitting here, I watched it and I didn't know what to think or feel. I was just completely stopped in my tracks. And then afterwards I went, huh, okay. So this is what it feels like to not have your mind racing or your mind overthinking things at a million miles a minute. And then I looked at it and thought about it, and I said, wow, what he did, I started looking at it for what it was, which was brilliant. I was like, this is cool. You know, this was back in 1973. He was the biggest thing since sliced bread. You know, David Bowie was doing something that was completely outrageous. And it launched his career to a level where, you know, may you rest in peace. It launched him into the musical stratosphere. And anybody who's anybody knows who this character is. And if you don't, then I suggest you learn, because it's absolutely brilliant. But I saw it after so long, and I wasn't phased by it. I didn't stay up thinking about it. It it suddenly was that aha moment that, okay, that this feels good. I think I'm starting to win this battle here. I think that I'm doing okay. You know, so you know, and I can laugh at it now. I can just go, what was I so worried about? What was such a big deal about it? You know, it just it was so funny. Just to think that something like this just phased me so much, and now I can just look at it and just, you know, oh wow, that was brilliant, that was genius. Uh, but I also just want to say that, you know, I've also been struggling, you know, with this, you know, with the isolation and everything. I've been working from home, which is not necessarily my thing. I like to have a separation between my home life and my work life, but for the safety of others and those who I care about, you know, it's the right thing to do. And sometimes doing the right thing is, you know, you're making a sacrifice. And I've had my moments where this has been very difficult too. You know, I felt, especially at the beginning of it, I was kind of coming a little unraveled. I was not liking this. I didn't like the circumstance. I didn't like the fact that there was this almost commingling of my work, my personal life, and my job. You know, it's hard when you're the place where you know, sit down and and enjoy spending time with, you know, your wife and your dog, and just, you know, your place, your sanctuary. It's where you know, your home is less than 10 feet from where you have to work every day, and it's in the same place. You know, it's hard. I've learned to, you know, deal with it. I've learned to accept it for what it is and try to make the best of it. And a lot of it just has to do with the fact that 8 years ago I made a decision uh, to try and take control of to take control of the anxiety and the depression that uh, crippled me for so many years. And uh, you know, everybody's different, you know, and my my point that I'm just trying to bring home here is that, uh, you know, your mental health is something that's very important and should be taken seriously. And if you feel like you're slipping, if you feel like things are just becoming very overwhelming, you know, there's an abundance of resources that are out there. You know, if you have a friend or a family member that you feel like you need to talk to, if you're having a rough day, if you're feeling overwhelmed, I just encourage you to do that. You know, if you need a friendly ear to talk to, I'd be more than happy to. You know, I'm not an expert, I'm not a doctor or anything. I just, you know, want to lend a friendly ear to those who just need someone to listen. I don't claim to know everything, but I know how hard it is to struggle with something like this. And uh, and for so many, this may, you know, to suddenly have the onset of anxiety and depression during this, you know, it's very hard to navigate. But um, you know, we're all just trying to find a way to navigate through this difficult situation. And hopefully we're going to reach that light at the end of the tunnel and be able to go back to some level of normalcy here in the near future. Um, but in the meantime, we just have to make the best of it. But it's just very important just to try and keep, just to make sure that you're keeping, tabs on your mental well-being, because that's the most important thing. I really, wanted to just tell this story today. It's just to serve as a as a notice of how important it is to take control of your mental well-being, and whatever is available to you in terms of resources to get through this, which we all will. And it has nothing to do, regardless of what your opinion is of the vaccine or how you feel about this political party doing this or that. The long and the short of it is that we have all collectively been affected by this in one way, shape, or form. Um, and this is also a time where you'll find that trying to find maybe creative outlets is a great way to be able to deal with it. I never thought in a million years that I would be doing any kind of painting or even something like this, or writing, or just taking walks, collecting your head, just doing anything to kind of stir creativity, or keep your hands busy, and to keep yourself from just getting to a feeling of despair. you know so whatever you got to do, whatever works for you, because we all come from different walks in life and have different ways of sort of coping with difficult times. If there's something that works for you and just can bring you to a better place, just go for it. So, well, we're just about out of time here. We're getting towards the end of this podcast here. I'd like to thank everybody. I can't really see who really joined in because I've just been focusing on making sure that I communicate effectively without turning to the side or looking all over the place you know for a whole bunch of times. But for those that have watched live, thank you very much for giving me a little bit of your time. I hope that you enjoy this, and I look forward to doing this again. Not everything's going to be a serious matter. I want to have some fun, and I definitely want to hear some feedback in terms of suggestions of maybe things that you want to talk about. I want to have a place for a civil conversation, and I want to be able to have other people be able to contribute and say what they feel, and bring something to the table. Also, I have a YouTube channel, the it's called the Lunchbox. Go ahead and you can chime in on that as well. But I just want to say thank you very much for your time, and because I am the cheesy kind of guy that I am, I'm gonna close the show with something uh, just absolutely cheesy and ridiculous. And again, have a wonderful weekend. Stay safe, and we'll see you the next time I decide to do something like this. Take care, and enjoy a little Duran Duran. Okay, just 1 second here, and we'll send you off, and we'll send you off in style here.
So soon, just after you're gone, my senses sharpen. But it always takes so damn long before I feel how much my eyes have darkened. Fear hangs a plane of gun smoke, drifting in a room. So easy to disturb with a thought, with a whisper, with a careless memory, with a careless memory. On the table, signs of love lies scattered, and the walls break. How could I let you go without some feeling? So let's just sympathy flowing. Fear hangs a plane of candle, drifting in our room. So easy to disturb with a thought, with a whisper, with a careless memory, with a careless memory, with a careless memory, with a careless memory. Oh, I walk out into the sun. I try to find a new day. But the whole place, it just screams in my eyes. Where are you now? 'Cause I don't want to meet you. I think I've died. I think I've laughed at you. I know I cry. What am I supposed to do? Follow you. Outside the thoughts come flooding back now. I was trying to forget you. So easy to disturb with a thought, with a whisper.